guys, so welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to learn on chapter 10, transport in humans and animals, and the subtopic for today is 10.1, the types of circulatory system. So I hope you are ready with your pen and paper to take notes. Okay, now let's look at the learning standard. Now in this chapter you must be able to firstly justify the necessity of transport system in a complex multicellular organism. Second, you must be able to identify the substances that are transported by the transport system. Okay, the substances required and also the waste product of a cell. So I believe you know this, you have learned this in your Form 3, but if you can't remember, it's okay. We will go through that in this subtopic. Okay, and then you are going to conceptualize the types of circulatory system in a complex multicellular organism. So there are two types of circulatory system, which is the open circulatory system and the closed circulatory system. And lastly, you are going to compare and contrast the similarity and the differences between the insect, fish, amphibians and human circulatory system. Alright? Okay, so now let's imagine that we are an amoeba. Yeah, what do you need in order to live? You are the amoeba. So amoeba definitely need oxygen, water and food, right? But they also excrete out carbon dioxide and also waste materials. Yeah, so as a unicellular organism, diffusion is definitely enough because unicellular organisms have small body mass and a very large total surface area per volume. We are talking about a TSA per V. Now, they don't have a heart, so they are kind of literally heartless. They don't even need one because diffusion is enough. Now, what about multicellular organism? Now, we have millions and millions of cells in our body. Diffusion is definitely not enough to transport materials in and out of the body, as our cells' total surface area is very small compared to the unicellular organism. Now, so we need a specific transport system to transport substances to and from the body cells. And in this case, it's the blood circulatory system. Alright? Okay, how do we determine the total surface area to volume ratio? And what is the relation of different sizes of organism to the total surface area per volume ratio? And how does this affect the diffusion process? So we can actually conduct an experiment to determine the TSA per V ratio, and all we need is agar with phenolphthalein and also sodium hydroxide solution. First, you need to prepare the agar, phenolphthalein, alright, and then you cut the agar into 3 different sizes as in the picture shown. You can see the pink agar. Alright, then you add them in a petri dish with sodium hydroxide solution. After 5 minutes, you'll be able to see that the color change in the phenolphthalein agar. It turns pink. Then we can actually calculate the ratio, like how long does it take to be turned pink, alright? And within 5 minutes, how much is the color change, how much in the cube. So from the experiment, it is proven that the larger the size of cube, the smaller the total surface area per volume ratio. Okay, meaning that, alright, high TSA per V, meaning faster diffusion. Okay, so in conclusion, you know that now, okay, if the size of organism increases, its TSA-V ratio decreases. I repeat, if the size of organism increases, its TSA per V ratio decreases. So large multicellular organisms need to obtain and deliver their cellular requirements to their internal cells, and simple diffusion is too slow for respiratory gases and nutrients to be transported throughout the body. So multicellular organisms overcome this problem by having a circulatory system for rapid transportation of gases and nutrients, and also rapid excretion of waste products and urine. Alright. Okay, so you know that there are two types of circulatory system, which is the open and the closed circulatory system. Now, under the closed circulatory system, we have the single, double, the incomplete and complete, which you are going to see further in this subtopic, like what is this and who has this. Alright, now let's look into the open and the closed circulatory system first. Alright, now in an open circulatory system, mostly they are invertebrates. Okay, they have this system with one or more muscular heart. Alright, the open system, they operate efficiently in these animals because they lead a sedentary life, and as consequences, their tissue does not require oxygen and nutrients at the rate and quantities of other active species. Now, in an open circulatory system, the hemolymph, okay, this is the hemolymph is the blood of the insect. Alright, they flow directly into the body cavity, which is the hemocoil. Alright, this is the body cavity here. Alright, and it bathes the cell. Now, in a closed circulatory system, blood is always contained in a continuous vessel. Alright, it's continuous. They do not have any vessels that actually connects to the body cavity. It's just continuous blood vessels. Alright, and it distributes the oxygen, the nutrients, everything to the whole body through these continuous vessels. Now, the hemolymph is a blood-like nutritious liquid where it transports nutrients and waste, but not respiration gases, okay, such as oxygen and carbon dioxide. They just transport nutrients and waste. Alright, but in the closed circulatory system, transportation of essentials such as nutrients and respiratory gases occurs between the system and also the body cells. So the hemolymph mixes with the interstitial fluid and then flows in a very slower speed in an open system, but the blood does not mix in the interstitial fluid and rapid flow back to the heart in the closed system. So there are two differences between an open circulatory system and also a closed circulatory system. Okay, from previous slide, you know that the insect has an open circulatory system, the invertebrates, correct? Now, you also know that the hemolymph occupies the hemocoil and is directly contact with all the cells and internal organs of the hemocoil. Alright, now the hemocoil of insect. This is the hemocoil here. Okay, let me show you. Okay, the hemocoil. Alright. Alright. And this is the heart. If this is the dorsal view of insect, dorsal view. So this is an open. So we have the hemocoil. You look at this. This is the ostium. Alright, this is the ostium here. And also the aorta, which is part of the heart. Now the hemocoil now does not contain hemoglobin, or we call it as red blood cells. Alright, it transports nutrients and also hormones directly to all body cells. It does not transport respiratory gases because it is transported in the tracheal system. Tracheal system we have learned in chapter 8. Okay, so that one is for respiratory gases, but here respiratory gases is not being transported in the hemolymph. Right, now the heart is actually a series of segmented chambers. You can see here there are chambers, segmented chambers Alright, each with a pair of ostium. Okay, I've shown you just now, this is the ostium. Ostium are tiny pores on both sides. Alright, now the direction of the hemolymph circulation. Hemolymph pumped by the heart to the vessel. Alright, hemolymph will bathe the body cell. Alright, and the contraction of the muscle and valves will cause the hemolymph to move to the heart again. So hemolymph enters the blood circulatory system through the ostium of the heart. Alright, you see in the picture shown. Okay, so now let's look at the fish circulatory system. Now, the fish has a single closed circulatory system. Closed because the blood flows in a continuous system of a blood vessel. It's not like the open one. It flows in the body cavity. So it has body vessels and it has heart. Now, single is because the blood flow through the heart only once in the complete circulation. So one time flow. Alright, now the heart of the fish. Alright, the heart of the fish consists of two chambers. Alright, they have one atrium and one ventricle and a atrioventricular valve. Okay, in between valve in between of the atrium and also the ventricle to prevent the backflow of the blood from the ventricle back to the atrium. Okay, so now let's look at the blood circulation. How is the blood flow? Alright, first starts with the ventricle. The ventricle will contract and push the deoxygenated blood to the gill capillaries. Okay, so the ventricle, ventricle pushes the deoxygenated blood through the artery to the gill capillaries. Alright, then gases exchange happen in the gill capillaries and they will transport the oxygenated blood from the gill capillaries into the systemic capillaries. This is the systemic circulation. Okay, we have two types, the gill circulation and also the systemic circulation. So in the systemic circulation also happens to exchange gases in the systemic capillaries. And then the deoxygenated blood again will flow back, through the vein and back to the atrium. From the ventricle and then back to the atrium. So ventricle to the gill capillaries, to the systemic capillaries and back to the heart, which is the atrium. So the exchange of gases happens at two places. Alright, the gills and also the systemic capillaries. Okay, now amphibian has a closed and incomplete double circulatory system. Closed, it's because blood flows in a continuous system of blood vessels. Double because blood flows through the heart twice in a complete circulation. Two different circulation we have in frog. We have the pulmocutaneous circuit and also the systemic circuit. Alright, and incomplete because the mixing of blood happens in the ventricle. Now, why is it the mixing of blood happens here? Because the heart of an amphibian has only three chambers. They have the two atrium, the right and the left, and only one ventricle. So mixing of blood happens in the ventricle. Now let's look at the blood circulation of the frog. Now the blood flow from the heart to the lungs and then back to the heart and then again to the systemic capillaries, which is the body cells, and then back to the heart. So this process is to transport the oxygen and carbon dioxide to and fro of the heart. Alright, now let's look into the bigger picture. How is the flow? Now first, oxygenated blood from the lungs flows through the pulmonary vein, through the pulmonary vein and into the left atrium. So here pulmonary vein, into the left atrium. So this is the oxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood, deoxygenated blood is transported from the body, through the vena cava, into the right atrium. So this one is through the deoxygenated blood and this is the oxygenated blood. Now when both atria now contract simultaneously, the oxygenated blood from the left atrium and the deoxygenated blood from the right atrium will enter the ventricle. So mixing of both blood happens in the ventricle. Now what happens when the ventricle contracts? When the ventricle contracts, the blood in the ventricle will be pumped up into two pathways. The first one is through the pulmonary artery, okay, to the lung capillaries for oxygenation. And the other pathway is through the aorta, okay, to the systemic capillaries, or we say to the body, alright, to supply the oxygen and the essential needs to the body cells. Alright? Okay, so human has a complete closed double circulatory system. Alright, closed and double, you know why? One, because it flows in a continuous system of blood vessel, and because it flows twice in the heart. But complete meaning there is no mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood in the ventricle. Alright, now the heart has two major circulation. One is the pulmonary circulation, pulmonary without the A, and systemic circulation. Now pulmonary circulation, the main function is to carry the deoxygenated blood, okay, from the heart to the lungs, and then oxygenated blood back from the lungs to the heart. But systemic circulation is in between the heart and also the body tissues. So systemic means body tissues and the pulmonary means for the lungs. Okay, now let's look at the pulmonary circulation. Now pulmonary circulation happens from the ventricle, right ventricle here, the deoxygenated blood, okay, the oxygenated blood will be transported through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, and then gases exchange happens in the lungs, and the oxygenated blood, this is the deoxygenated, and the oxygenated blood will then return to the heart through the pulmonary vein. Okay, but in the systemic circulation, the oxygenated blood, okay, will be pumped out from the left ventricle in a very high pressure through the aorta, okay, through the aorta here, alright, and into the branches of arteries to reach the body tissue, because we have like a lot of body tissues, correct? So it will reach the body tissues, liver, stomach, and so on, and the exchange of gases occurs in the body tissues, okay, and the deoxygenated blood are channeled back through the heart to the heart, okay, to the heart through vena cava. It's vena cava, alright, and back to the right atrium of the heart. So that is the human circulatory system. Okay, so in summary, yes, pulmonary circulation happens from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery to the lungs, then back to the pulmonary vein and into the left atrium, the left side. And the systemic circulation is from the left ventricle to the aorta, to the body tissue, to the vein, back to the vena cava, and also back to the right atrium. Okay, from the body tissues is deoxygenated blood, and to the body tissues is the oxygenated blood. Okay, from here pulmonary, deoxygenated blood carried to the lungs, and oxygenated blood is carried back to the heart. Alright. Okay, now for summary, you can actually draw a table to differentiate between the circulatory system in the complex multicellular organism. You can also find this table in your textbook, but try to do it without referring to any book and see whether you can actually fill in the table. What are the similarities and what are the differences? Okay, let's look at some sample questions here. Yeah. Okay, now this is an SPM 2012 question number 33. Now, which organism has the largest total surface area to volume ratio? Remember, the smaller the organism, the larger the TSA per V. So the answer should be yes, it's C. Okay, next is a SPM 2008 question number 7. Here they says diagram 7.2 shows the blood circulatory system in organism S and T. So you can see what is S, what is T. Yeah, alright, so S is actually fish. You can see here there's only one heart and one ventricle, so this is definitely fish. And this one we have like complete to the lungs, to the capillaries, and then we have the 4 chambers heart, so this is definitely human. Alright, so this is how you dissect the question. Now based on diagram 7.2, give one example of organism S and organism T. So you know S is fish and human is for T. Now next question, that one you get your 2 marks. So the next question is that describe the similarities and differences between the blood circulatory system in organism S and organism T. So that is the same thing that what we have learned. If you have drawn the table, you know it, so you can actually answer. What are the answers? So similarities is that both have a closed circulatory system and both have the red blood cells which flows in blood vessels. Alright, now the differences is that the fish have a single circulatory system while humans have a double circulatory system. Flows one time, this one flows twice. Fish has no septum in the heart. Okay, and septum is present in human heart to separate the 4 chambers. Alright, and then the fish, in fish, oxygenated blood flows from the gills to the cells directly, while in humans, oxygenated blood flows from the lungs to the heart and then into the cells. Alright, so it's not direct. Now, fish heart have 2 chambers, whereas human heart have 4 chambers. Okay. Blood pressure in fish is lower, whereas blood pressure in human is high. Alright, and since the pressure is low and high, so the blood flows slowly in fish vessel, whereas the blood flows rapidly in human vessel. Right? Okay, now next, SPM 2010, same thing, same question, I mean almost the same question as the 2008, where they says diagram 7.3 shows the blood circulatory system of 2 organisms, X and Y. Okay, so we can look at the diagram here. Okay, so what is X and what is Y? Yeah, X is human. In this case, X is human and Y is fish. Correct? So now, question is, explain the similarities and differences in the blood circulatory system of X and Y. So the answers are quite similar. I mean, not quite similar, it's very similar to the question in 2008. Okay, with that we are done actually. So you know that the circulatory system, we have 2 categories, the open and the closed. And in the closed circulatory system, we have the 4 main organism, okay, that you have learned: the insect, the fish, amphibian, and also the human. So you must know the differences. Now you see, even in formative practice 10.1, in page 172, the question was asking, state 2 differences between the circulatory system of fish and humans. Okay, number 2, explain why the blood circulatory system of amphibians is considered as closed and incomplete blood circulatory system. Okay, number 3, the flatworm is a multicellular organism. However, flatworm does not require a specialized transportation system to move the substances in and out of the cell. What is flatworm and why? Yeah? They don't need the system, so you have to explain why. And lastly, explain why insects need one separate system, which is the tracheal system, to transport oxygen. Yes, so why are they separated? So answer them. Okay, answers will be provided in the link description box below. But before you look at the answers, please do it first to check your understanding. Right? And with that, I would end my video here. Thank you for watching, and please do not forget to like and subscribe my channel. Bye bye.